why cute forest animals just wasn't cutting it for me. Have you ever found yourself making art that on the surface looks good, but deep down doesn't fully feel like you? That was me. In 2015, designing these cute forest animals, chasing after art licensing deals, and completely losing sight of why I started painting in the first place. I thought I was being strategic, but in reality, I was slowly disconnecting from the heart of my creativity, and it almost cost me my art career. So today I want to share what I learned about finding your true purpose as an artist and how to reconnect with the deeper reason of why you create. I'm Wendy Brightbill, and I help artists go from hobbyist to professional artist. And I especially help artists in finding their own unique style as an artist. And if you want support with that, I highly recommend my art style blueprint. The quiz is in the caption. So let's go back to 2015. I really got caught up in this idea of the art of art licensing, right? Okay. I thought that if I could only get my art on products, things like mugs, fabrics, pillows, wall art, notebooks, then I'd actually finally make it as an artist, right? Have you ever had those thoughts like, if I could only do this, then that would validate me as an artist and I would feel so official, right? And so I started designing these cute forest animals, pretty patterns, and things that I thought people would want to buy on actual products. I taught myself digital Illustrator, I taught myself Photoshop, and I completely immersed myself in, how do you actually get art licensing deals, right? But somewhere along the way, I actually realized I didn't even like the art that I was making anymore. I recognized that there was a disconnect between this art that I was making and the art that I actually felt like was me, right? And I think it was because it was coming from this idea of what I should be doing in order to be successful as an artist. And I think this is one of the most common traps that artists fall into. We actually start creating for validation, for trends, or even for external goals. And while those things in and of themselves aren't necessarily bad, like I believe in having goals as an artist, and I think that we as artists can make a really good living as an artist. But I think we always have to remember this underlying why of why we create and the message that we are here to bring as artists. Because I believe that being an artist is a calling, right? And so I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that I learned along the way in making these cute forest animals, okay? So lesson number 1, don't make art for other people, okay? And I think this is one of the biggest lessons that I learned from this season. Just because you can create something doesn't mean that you should. And I got stuck in that trap, right? Oh, I can do that. I can do that. And yet, just because you can make something doesn't mean that you should actually pursue it unless it's something that you are absolutely passionate about, right? So I spent months trying to design things that fit the market. And while they, looked okay, right? I don't even think there was anything wrong with it. I wasn't thrilled with actually making them, right? And it was because I was trying to be someone that I wasn't, right? And the truth is that your art should light you up inside. It should come from a place of curiosity, joy, or even some really deep emotion that you're trying to express through your paintbrush. And it shouldn't come from this place of duty or obligation or trend, right? So I encourage you to actually ask yourself that question. Am I making art that truly feels like me, or art that I think other people will want, right? That's so incredibly important to ask yourself that question. Lesson number 2, your style should feel like an obsession, right? Once I made this switch in my art practice, and I just let go of this idea of art licensing. And honestly, what helped me in this season in recognizing the disconnect was I went on Pinterest and I created an art board. And this is something that I do inside of my program Style Lab. I have all of my artists make a Pinterest board that is the art that feels most like you, right? And I encourage you to do that. And so I recognized that this is the art that I felt most drawn to. And then I went back to the art that I was actually making. And the art that was on my Pinterest board, something about it made my heart, go like this, right? It got me so excited in terms of, oh my gosh, I couldn't stop thinking about it, right? It made me leap out of bed in the morning and want to go into my studio and make a mess with paint and, just try new things and do something totally out of the box, right? And I think, when you're actually connected to your purpose as an artist and connected to the message that you're wanting to express through your art style just flows naturally from that place, right? And I think that, true style comes from this place where, there is this message that you feel drawn to communicate over and over and over again. And it's almost like you're chasing after something that you never quite achieve. And so it's what keeps you going back to your studio day in and day out. And honestly, it just doesn't get boring. I hear that all the time from artists who comment about how I've made these 600 crazy floral bouquets. Doesn't it get boring? And honestly, because I feel like it's the truest, it's such a part of me that it doesn't get boring. Do you think people asked Monet, aren't you sick of painting lily pads? I mean, that's all he painted practically, right? And no one, maybe people did ask him that. I don't really know, but it needs to be something that you can obsess over as an artist. And honestly, I think sometimes first you have to find the message behind your art, And then you have to find the elements of art that you feel most drawn to. So the 7 elements of art are line, shape, color, form, space, texture, and value. And when you figure out what your 2 to 3 top elements of art are, then you can go deeper into those elements, right? And there's a freedom that comes because you realize, you know what, form is not my thing. The capacity of creating something 3-dimensional, just forget it. But I love graphic shape, and I could, obsess over patterns and shape all day long. So even when I was making the cute forest animals, which were absolutely not my thing, I was playing with color and shape, right? And so even though cute forest animals were not my subject matter, there wasn't a deeper reason of why I was creating it. I still was diving deeper into my elements of art. Okay, so your style should feel like an obsession. Lesson number 3 that I learned at this time: find the underlying story in your art, right? So let's talk about that, because I feel like this is one of those things that artists really struggle with defining until you really start, thinking through this. You might still be figuring this out, and that's okay. But it all goes back to why you create, right? And so one of the reasons why I create my art, and especially do floral work, is because I believe that flowers are an invitation to really take note and enjoy the beauty in the everyday moments. That was my message, or is my message, in painting florals, okay? And it has been such a part of healing for me. Especially my whole entire art practice has always been about that, finding beauty in the everyday moments. And so when I look back on cute forest animals, that doesn't really speak to that message, right? So every artist has themes that they return to again and again, whether it's nature, stillness, some sort of emotion, joy, peace, calm, beauty, chaos. Those are some of the recurring themes which are kind of clues for you to look for in regards to finding your purpose as an artist. I know for me, one of the themes that I explore in my art is finding beauty in the mess, right? Because after my car accident, I was dealing with this aftermath of, depression, chronic pain. Everything felt chaotic. And so my art making became this practice for me to find beauty and something of value in the mess. And so I've always been drawn to these messier, looser styles of making art. And so that also is a clue to finding my art style. So these are some questions that you can ask yourself for finding the underlying story in your art. What do I really want to express through my art? What do I want people to feel when they see it? And what stories am I telling without even realizing it, right? And so once I recognized, right, that I was always painting about beauty, but not just surface beauty, that I was painting about the fleeting nature of beauty, about finding meaning in everyday moments, then I was like able to actually go deeper in my own expression of art making, right? And that realization completely changed everything for me. And I stopped making art for other people. I stopped chasing after art licensing deals. And I actually just went deeper into my own art process. So lesson number 4 is to follow the threads of your true expression, right? So once you start noticing like these little threads, the things that draw you into making art again and again, I encourage you to follow them, right? Are you drawn to painting, peaceful tones and calm compositions? Or are you more drawn to bold, in your face, contrast, right? Or is it about, capturing the beauty of light and dark, right? So really stopping and asking yourself these questions, right? That's like your inner compass guiding you to what this deeper message is in your art. So I want to encourage you to really just don't dismiss what comes naturally to you. Follow your curiosity even when it doesn't make sense, right? And don't discount, what's actually coming out of your art practice. It's what these like little threads of interest are what is going to help you get to your truest expression of art. So lesson number 5 is the power of staying connected to your why. So this is the last tip, and I just want to say, it's the most important part of everything that I've shared in this video, and that is really staying connected to why you feel compelled to create in the first place, right? Not because I wanted to, make cute forest animals. That was not my why, right? And when you know why you create, your art actually carries this emotional depth to it. It communicates something else that's behind the canvas. And actually, here I was chasing after, these art licensing deals and trying to make a living as an artist. But when I actually stopped and went deeper into what feels most like me as an artist, and going back to my why, and, trying to play in my creative practice in the way that most felt like me, honestly, what ended up happening was my art started to resonate on a deeper level with people who were looking at it, right? Because once I got clear about the message that I was communicating through my art practice, and I returned to those things that brought me the most joy, that got me excited about creating, it's almost like people saw that in my art, right? Something about what I was creating resonated with them on a deeper level. And honestly, that's when I actually started selling my original art for the very first time. And so when you come into alignment with what your real purpose is as an artist, and you start to, find clarity around, this is why I create, this is the message of my art, and this is the way that I'm choosing to express that within the different elements of art, then you will have better luck actually finding the right people for your art. And it's almost like you attract then those people who resonate with your message because they can see your expression in what you are creating. It's so powerful. And so while I was chasing after making art for other people, I was trying to make a living at my art, but I was totally missing the mark. And it sounds counterintuitive, but when I started making art for me, that's when I started selling. And so it's such a crazy mind trip, right? And I think that as artists, we have to, in the integrity of who we are and how we choose to show up, when we seek those things, it's like then everything else falls into place, and the people who are drawn to our art will actually, opt in and purchase our art, right? And I just want to say that I feel like that was the secret ingredient for me, is me, right? And that's the secret ingredient to powerful art. You. Putting you in your art is the most powerful thing. So, if you are feeling disconnected from your art right now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a step back. I want you to stop chasing what is trendy or marketable. And instead, I want you to ask yourself, what lights me up? What story do I keep trying to tell through my art? And that is where your purpose lives. If you want support in any of these areas and in diving into one-on-one what it would look like to work with me and go deeper, even in a community of art, I have a community for artists who are wanting to build their creative businesses in a way that's sustainable. I have my Flourish and Flow Society, and I'll leave the link in the comments. And honestly, I give each member one-on-one feedback on how to go deeper in finding their why and finding their message. Because some of us, we just get off track sometimes, right? And don't forget, I have lots of free resources in the caption as well. Let me know in the comments, have you ever been in this place, and what helped you actually get out of the place of making art for other people?